How was last night?
It was great, and thank you for holding me afterwards. Let's just get right. No, we showed the movie here last night, and it went very, very, very well. It was very well embraced by you nice people here at South by Southwest. It's an honor to be here.
How many here saw it? Wow.
All right.
Are there any surprises? I know you've been in Toronto and I know you've been here. Are there any surprises when you see it in full screenings now?
No. There are the parts that are tough to watch get predictably quiet.
What are those?
And well, there's a menstruation sequence in the movie, Jeffrey, that was a bit of a big swing for me and Andrew Dodge. Andrew Dodge, sitting front row here, who wrote the film. Stand up, Andrew.
Andrew is the screenwriter.
So if you've got any issues with the film,
It's Andrew.
okay, it's not my fault.
No.
But certainly that one is a tough sequence to watch because I'm playing a character that is deeply flawed. He's not as bright as all of us. He does not know how to handle his emotions and the fact that he got his feelings hurt. He's doing something that is very sort of petulant, and so that one gets quiet. But usually the jokes get some nice laughs. I'm so relieved.
I have a question about, okay, so you have all the choices of all the scripts and all the venues you
really.
have.
Not really.
And this is your first, although I've been under your wonderful directorial baton and you're an excellent director, and this is a fabulous film, but this is your first venture out as an independent directorial filmmaker. Why this particular script?
Well, Andrew and I both have black coal hearts. Comedically, we go pretty dark, but I think what I saw in Andrew's script and would lead me to believe that we share this as well is that I learned this from you, quite frankly, that there needs to be a reason for a character to be doing something that is funny. I mean, sure, you can write a funny joke, and you know, anybody can say a funny joke, and you're going to get a laugh just by its very definition. It's just a good joke. But if you're going to make an audience laugh through behavior or situation, et cetera, there needs to be something under it. And as a consequence, there usually is not a lot of, one of Jeffrey's terms, not a lot of winking that's going on. In other words, it's deadly serious to everybody inside the film. It's not funny to them, and if they heard anybody laughing, they'd be deeply offended. And so that's what this film seemed to have. There's a deep vulnerability, and it's a drama to everybody inside it. And so that was challenging to me, to be able to direct and manage that tone, that effort.
You mentioned the word tone. Did you guys ever, was it hard? It does have a particular tone, and what I told you in my email was I have not seen a tone quite like this. It's very, I haven't, and I mean that in a salutary way. I think it's beautiful, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And it, you know, you don't know. You're saying, well, am I supposed to go here? Am I supposed to go there? And I love that uncomfortability, and yet comfortability of the professionalism of the script. Was that hard to find that tone?
The acting part of that tone was not difficult to find because the comedy that I tend to do lives very close to drama anyway. I'm usually playing the straight man, or I'm reacting for us. And so that is generally not a very broad flavor of comedy. I'm not taking big swings. I'm not throwing pies or getting hit by them. I'm reacting to that action. So I'm usually pretty straight and muted. So that part of the performance tone was fairly simple. for me, which is why I took on the part. I didn't want to initially. I asked a couple of
Talk about that.
I asked a couple of bigger, better actors, and they told me to go screw myself. And so I said, all right, well, I'll play the part, and plus it might actually lighten my workload because I don't have to direct the lead actor, and I can do other things. But as a director, trying to build an environment, a palette, an aesthetic that lends itself to that kind of tone is what is the most exciting thing about directing for me, because it involves all the departments it was inappropriate for me to get involved with as an actor. The camera department, the lighting department, the editing, the music, everything else. I mean, actors work 15 minutes an hour. That's it. While everyone is making the movie, you're in your trailer either learning your lines or watching Judge Judy or doing whatever the hell you want to do. But everybody is setting the environment, building everything you see and everything you're about to hear. And then, and this is not to belittle acting, but then we actors come in and we talk. And when you're done talking, you go back in your trailer and they continue making the movie. So that was the part that I was really interested in unapologetically contributing.
And how'd that go?
It was the greatest experience of my life. I had an incredible group of skilled technicians that know how to, I want this to feel a little bit more melancholy. I know that there's a combination of focal length and lighting and music and editing that will set the table for you guys to then receive the great words. That it's a combination of elements, and as a director, you are. It's like conducting an orchestra. You're in charge of the sound of those instruments, and the aggregate sound of that gives you a shared experience, hopefully.
I'm so proud of you.
Don't you start crying on me.
Were you on the set? Did you
Every
guys
day.
change at all?
As men?
As men, and did you change the script at all as you went, or was it locked?
Andrew was incredibly flexible and egoless throughout the whole development process. Once I read the script and expressed huge love for it, he and I sat and I kind of explained to him what I thought he was trying to say with the script, and he said, yep, and I said, okay, great, because that's the version I'd love to make. And do you think that maybe if we do this or say this, we might say what you're trying to say better per the way I'm going to perform it and per the way I'm going to shoot it? And it was usually yes. And so he had his laptop there, and we'd start either cutting a scene or adding to a scene or reshuffling scenes or tweaking dialogue. Or there's this, and it was new to me, but I'd always heard about it, this great moment when a director comes on a project, and new to Andrew too. This is the first script Andrew's ever written.
This is your first?
Yeah. And so we were trying to figure this thing out as a team, because it's a team of one, then it's two, then you start hiring people, and the team becomes much, much bigger, and we're still adding to the team. I'm meeting people here at this festival that are part of Focus's marketing department, that we're all just trying to deliver it to people and trying to keep it not completely frayed, because
how do you marshal your performance when you're the director? Or who's your eyes?
Well, there's great people in what's called Video Village, which is this group of chairs where the producers, the writer, the director of photography, the script supervisor, a bunch of people sit around that you trust, and they watch the TV of what the camera is grabbing. And it's usually where the director sits. And
so do you do a take and then go to Video Village and watch it?
I wanted to be judicious with the time I spent doing that. As much of a narcissist as I am, it was very tempting to watch every take
by the
back,
way,
but yeah,
he is
the king, the greatest.
He is the un-narcissist guy. You actually never know what he's doing, because he never brags. You never know what he's doing. He just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better. But he's not one of these braggarts. I don't know why.
This is why I wanted him to moderate.
He is truly one of the most ethical men I've ever met. And that's not because we had barbecue just now in the dressing room.
He's drunk on beef. So I would do 2, 3, 4 takes, and then it would feel like, well, maybe we might have something there that was what we wanted to do, and then I'd go check that on playback. And
I just have to tell you, as an actor, I would have huge problems with that. How do you get over the shape of your nose, let's say, or your I mean, no, seriously.
You could land a plane on it. Yeah.
I'm not saying your nose, although now that you say
shitty.
it.
I mean, I'm going to bounce back from that comment, but it was pretty shitty.
I mean, how do you get over the little things onto the grand things? How do you get over that? You know. From
just being a little kid, basically when I was blissfully ignorant and wasn't vain and didn't have a complex about any number of things, not the least of which is my nose. I watched what I did. And sure, it was because I was a little kid. It was like, wow, I'm on TV, and you get to watch yourself on TV. But then, as you start to get a little bit older, you start to use it as a learning experience. At least for me, because you remember the way you meant to come across, and then there's a completely different way that you come across once a lens is put on, or the way you forget. Well, they're going to cut away from me when I stop talking, and they're going to cut to somebody else. And you have to get an audience's perspective. So I'm very used to watching myself and can be pretty objective about it.
Was there two questions. Was there a good surprise that you didn't know would happen to you in this directing, producing, acting thing?
I knew that I would love it more than anything in the world, and it was a surprise that I loved it even more. So I had to keep myself from working everybody 17 hours. I mean, I wanted to be there and keep going and going and going. The pre-production and post-production is something I've never been exposed to, literally, at all.
Well, I remember you talking, he talked about the sessions that he had with you, and because we were working with Arrested at that time, and you were on fire. You just said it was the most exciting thing that you'd ever gone through working like that. Was there a bad surprise?
I wouldn't call it bad. I would say that the process of the music section of making a film, which is so hugely affecting with an audience, does not get given the amount of time that it deserves. It's, a few weeks, and usually that time is spent with the composer and the director apart, and the composer kind of working in a vacuum with some
And
rough
your composer
assembly.
Was?
Rolf Kent, who has done all the music for the Reitman films and the Alexander Payne films. I mean, this guy's like, I was so lucky to have him, and I love what he did with the film, but I'm so in awe of how much music can enhance, support, offset what you're trying to do on the set, that I would have wanted to get in there and just play forever with all of what music can do, and to be educated on what music can do, the whole theory.
So how did you bring yourself to him? Did you say that you were, did you let him step forward more than you did? Or
yes, in general, I deferred to all that were working on the movie, because best idea wins. I certainly had a very clear idea about what I wanted to do, and would lead with that idea, and if somebody had a better idea, they were encouraged to speak up or to enhance that idea.
Did you storyboard?
Yeah, storyboarded everything, shot listed everything, and decided exactly the way I wanted every single scene to be shot before we started. Now, I was nimble, malleable on the set, because as you know, you get some genius like this guy walks in and he says, well, I think I want to do this whole scene lying down. Or I want to enter through that door instead of that door.
How were you with the geniuses who wanted to lie down, by the way?
I was like, great.
And that
fine.
Was always my idea, to lie down in the scene.
Right, exactly, yeah. It's not a big fan of standing.
Yes.
And so you pivot, you figure out a different way to shoot it. Now, sometimes a scene, what you're trying to say with the scene is on purpose not going to be said with the dialogue. It's going to be told with images and probably a little bit of music. And so it becomes a little bit less arbitrary about where you're sitting, where you're standing, because I might need you standing in front of that mountain or that sign in the background that's going to be in soft focus, but it does give us a little bit of information that explains the look on your face that's in the foreground. Some specific stuff like that, I would try to convince the genius that there's something else at play here, which I will, you know, finish in the post-production process. And if you want to be bored with the details of it now, you know.
The casting is brilliant. The great Kathryn Hahn, Philip Baker Hall, Allison, Janney, genius. The young boy,
Rohan Chand.
Rohan, absolutely out of the park casting. Very, very specific. Talk about the casting of Kathryn Hahn, because you probably had a panoply of submissions from all over, from CAA to, you know, whatever. And talk about that specific casting, because it's so specific to the tone of your film. Well, and I love her.
I think that we don't have a lot of ways in which to make our decision on how we're going to, what movie we're going to spend money on, right? I mean, you've got the commercial, you've got the poster, you've got the trailer, and you've got the cast, and that has to get you to the theater, but it also has to set the correct mood for what you're about to see, because if marketing or casting or whatever it is tells you it's going to be something different than what they deliver, you're going to give it a false negative. It's like if you're in the mood for Chinese food and you go to the best French restaurant in town, you're going to say that Chinese food was terrible. Yet it was so. The casting.
Are you saying that it's so? If the audience sees Allison Janney and it sees your marketing people are looking at me like
Philip Baker Hall and
Philip
Kathryn
Baker Hall,
Hahn
and if you see Kathryn Hahn, that you know what restaurant you're walking into. Is that what you're saying?
I hope so. I think
that's
Rachel
absolutely
Harris
perfect.
and Ben Falcone, and you know, these people are revered, rightfully so, for a certain brand of humor.
Did you audition her, or did you talk to her?
No. I didn't audition. The only person I auditioned was Rohan.
Did you see her in Afternoon Delight?
No, I'd never seen Kathryn act before. Kathryn and I were just friends. Kathryn and I were just friends, and I just
talk about that.
Well, I made an assumption that her quality was such that it was perfect for the part, and that her acting would be pretty similar to the way she's just so intoxicatingly comfortable in her skin.
Yeah.
That there's just no way that she would do some 180 when it's time to act.
Well, full disclosure, I saw her in Afternoon Delight because I saw it because I was trying to, I was about to work with Jill Soloway, who just directed her, and she's a and I just worked with her with my thing for on Amazon, and she was a revelation to me. She's a revelation to me because the choices, and your chemistry was so, I didn't know you were friends, your chemistry is so, I mean, you said I watched it alone. I was laughing out loud with "Don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me."
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what my wife and I say when we have sex.
So I felt
very comfortable with
clearly what Tiffany and Andrew say. At least once a month. It's got to be at least once a month, twice a month. Good for you. 1.5. I get what you're saying.
Did you have to talk to the boy and the boy's mother about the language?
Well, you know, everybody gets the script before they voluntarily audition for the movie. So
because there was some language.
There's some language. There is, not to overuse the word, but there is some tone in this film that is not soft and chewy. We assume that he is soft and chewy, but he's got this comedically abrasive veneer. So yes, they were all privy to the script, obviously, and they were clearly okay with it because they drove their kid to the audition. Now, I still felt the obligation to reassure them that what they were attracted to, hopefully in the script, is what I was with Andrew's script, that there is a deeper agenda at play here, and that this is a story about a guy whose feelings were hurt, and that that's the equivalent. That scene right there is the equivalent of a boy in 5th grade pulling a girl's hair that he really likes. I mean, that's the way kids flirt. This is me bonding with that kid, and you see shortly thereafter that he kind of he does hang out with them. This is just he wasn't brought up well. And it was my obligation. I was I was forced, I needed to show moments, glimpses, flashes of vulnerability or doubt or regret.
Let me ask you about that. I'm very curious about that. This is when we talked. I said I want to ask you a question. Did you have to marshal where, I don't know why I'm using the word marshal today, maybe because I was at Marshall's. Do you have to marshal where the turn is? Because in the scene with in the hotel room, the first time you crack a smile, and I went, I wondered if you shot it a number of ways. Do you have to? That's what I'm worried. That's what I love about this, the genius of this film is the calibration. There's such an adult here. I mean, there's such genius. You're supposed to say thank you.
Yes, no, I'm feeling a huge thank you.
Yeah. No, but did you? I mean, did you have to say when is he going to turn? Was that a problem?
We talked about that scene in the hotel room, which follows this quickly thereafter, is the first moment where there's that recognition of, but he says it by saying, "You're a real weird kid," you know that. So, I've just got this. I like my moments of heart and treacle. And those sort of formulaic boxes checked that are necessary formulaic boxes checked in a very subtle way. And it's just my own personal taste. Any sort of character arc or anything like that, I like to barely see. So Andrew was right on course with me. And so we knew that was the scene where we'd start to show a glimmer of it. And there's actually about 30 seconds more to that scene that we found. I think even before we shot it, we always knew that we're probably not going to need this because I bet you we're going to be able to play what we say in the next 30 seconds are much more clear about you're a good kid, and he kind of teases him a little bit more. But we kind of see it in that look, and then you get out before the cynics in the audience, like myself, start going, oh, great, so they're going to become friends, I get it, you know, and I just wanted to delay that as much as possible.
Now, there's a lot of people. How many are writers here? And how many are directors? And how many are actors? Who the hell are the rest of you? Why are you here? What would you say to this audience for those who are, who are first-time writers, first-time directors, which they are? What would you say about stepping forward? A lot of them are vacillating. A lot of them are going, are waiting for the inspiration, waiting for the moment. Maybe I'll do it next week. Maybe I'll do it the week after. There's some nodding of heads going like this. Is there anything you would say about that? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you haven't figured it out yet, you will soon. Unfortunately, it's not a meritocracy, this business. And so know that. So it's frustrating because you are the best at what you do. Beautiful. For your taste. Beautiful. For your audience. And so it's very, very frustrating to not get hired because who's better than you to deliver entertainment that you're going to enjoy? So understand that. But further to that, it's something that, I don't mean to blow air up your ass, Jeffrey, but, Jeffrey taught me something and teaches something that is very, very valuable, which is, you have your own thing that you do, and no one else does it better than you. And it wasn't until Arrested Development where I finally got a job that asked me to do the thing that I really liked doing the best, which was a real dry sense of humor. I was spending a lot of time doing multi-camera television, which is much more performance-based instead of actor-based, and you're asked to wink a bit more, and you should. It's a sneaky, tough sort of genre. There's a studio audience, so there's a participatory thing there, so you kind of have to go to the back row with your, but my mother's British, so I really like this dry, subtle sense of humor. Jeffrey is at the top of that mountain, and so when I got to work with him on Arrested Development, tell the story all the time, he was the first person to do any acting on that show. We shot a scene where he has this long monologue, camera was on him first, so he spoke first in any of the acting on Arrested Development, on the pilot episode. And he delivers this monologue in the driest, most hilariously exhausted way possible. And it set the comedic tone for the show. And I remember thinking, oh, great, we get to do that. And my point is, I didn't take a talent pill before I did Arrested Development. It was simply just a vehicle that allowed me to do the thing that I really think I do best. And it happened to be embraced by those who hand out jobs in Hollywood, as opposed to it being a success in the middle of the country. So that was really fortunate for me. So you're always just a job away, and know that doing exactly what you do will be enough if you're lucky enough to get that job.
Wow. He's beautiful. He's truly, he's great. And he's in a very, very beautiful spot, and it's terrific. I think we're going to open, but I just want to ask one more thing. So when I worked with you, you did 1-2 takes and you moved on. Did you do 1-2 takes, move on here?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of time to do a whole lot more than that, yeah. But
talk about you're using that whole motel where I used to drink. I used to drink on in that hotel. I'm not kidding. I know every place you were, including the back stairs.
Yeah.
Which,
Sportsman.
That's another seminar. Go ahead.
Sportsman's Lodge is this it's this great hotel that's got a lot of character in the San Fernando Valley, and it not so coincidentally sits directly between my house and my kids' school, so I could still do drop off and make it to work every morning. And it was originally written for Washington, D.C. It was going to be the script spelling bee, and it was going to be televised on ESPN, not televised on public television, and not the Golden Quill, the second best spelling bee. But I knew that our budget couldn't bear going to D.C. I knew that scripts would never sign off on the film, and I knew that we couldn't replicate the production value of ESPN. So we just scratched out that slug line, and we said, well, it's just, this is what it is now. And so we get to stay in L.A. And also creatively, not just budgetarily, but creatively, this is a story and a bunch of characters and a bunch of decisions that would be more believable made by a more fringe set of people than a more mainstream set of people that you might find on ESPN or in DC or at the Scripps.
Are you publishing your budget? Are you saying what your budget
We're under
is?
10, Jeffrey. Ushne.
Ushne. He can't even try to be a Jew. It's not Ushne. Says, when the Goyim try to be Jewish.
It's the nose. This nose is not Jewish.
Oh.
It's a Bob Slope.
I think we're going to open this for question and answer now. Am I at 45? No? Well, I'm going to open it for...
Let's
Heck
do
with
it.
you people.
Yeah, we'll take all the questions you can handle.
Why don't you get up there?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Jeffrey actually addressed every question that I was going to ask. So
Oh, great.
Thank you. I'm one of those aspiring writers, too. Those were great words of wisdom. So my question for you right now is, what is your personal favorite Arrested Development episode and why?
I think my favorite was the one-armed man that taught us lessons, right? Although, truly, and this is not more posterior air, every single scene I had with Jeffrey was just a dream for me. And I bored you with this story before, but you know, I can't perform with him without laughing. I'm usually pretty good about not breaking, but he breaks me every time. And so early in the first season, I just decided to never look at his eyes, and I would always look
Very disconcerting,
right here or up here. And it would piss him off often because he said it's like working with Helen Keller. But I can't look him right in the eye, otherwise I'll just laugh the whole time. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, I had a question. What was your biggest battle on the film? What did you fight for more than anything to get done?
Good question.
I'm telling you, the prep was so thorough that there was, you know, when we did the big spelling bee at the end, there was a lot of apparatus there. We were shooting a television show and a film, you know, so there was a lot of equipment, there were a lot of extras, and just time is what you want and what you need because you've got a lot of people have to get on camera. So time was what you just try to manage your day, prioritize things.
If I can follow up, did you find yourself shortchanging yourself as an actor? Because you're also directing and you're producing, you're thinking about everyone else.
Not really. Not really. I had the advantage of knowing exactly what I was going to use in the editing room. So I knew that if I said that last line like crap, I'm going to be on an establishing shot anyway. That's going to play in VO, so it didn't matter. So I knew I don't need to go back and get that again because I'm not going to use it. So, and there was a lot of crap that I did.
Yes.
First, I would like to say thank you very much for sharing all those very interesting insights, and thank you, Jeffrey, for you're an amazing moderator, and it's really great. You've been asking a lot of very interesting questions. So thank you for that. And my question is about the music. So I work for a music studio, a Canadian music studio, and we work on a lot of movies. And you were saying that the music was a bit tough to work on because of the time. Would you have liked to start working on the music from the very beginning, like maybe on the storyboard, to have your composer working with you and like brainstorming on the ideas? And do you think that then it would have changed the way you were shooting the scenes as well, like thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to start another film in May, and already now just doing preliminary work on the budget, I'm trying to sort of carve out more for the composer so that we can have them on the production longer. Because, yeah, it informs what you need and what you don't need on the set. If I'm going to have the music carry this sequence, then I don't need as much, or I'm going to, it's crappy comparison, but you're like cooking a meal. When you're shooting, you're just at the market, and then in post, you're actually doing the cooking. So, depending on the kind of stuff they have available at the market, it's going to inform what else you need to buy or don't need to buy, and how you cook it later. So, I'd love to have them on longer. It just means kind of shifting funds, and I will.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Hi, I have a comment and then a question. I think you're both awesome, and I've been a fan of yours since you were on Valerie 100 million years ago. But my question is, how did you find Andrew and the script, and how did it begin?
Good question.
Well, the fine folks at CAA, one of which John Garvey, right there, the wind beneath my directing wings. Stand up, my friend. John found this script actually when he was working for the guy who was at the time my agent, and John was his assistant, and that guy is no longer there, and John is now a full-blown agent, and John is the man. So John found this, and when I asked the agent, hey, would you send me some scripts? Like, yeah, sure, I'm going to find you some great scripts. And of course, then he says, John, find some scripts for this Bateman guy. He says he wants to be a director, And then John finds these three great scripts, but Bad Words was, far and away the best of the three.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
I got that about right, don't I? Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you for doing this. Jason, you guys touched upon the child actors, but any unexpected challenges in directing kids, and maybe any techniques that you used as a director to get the performances that you wanted?
Well, you try to not give line readings as a director, but it is the most efficient way to let an actor know what you would like to feel as a result of the way that they read that line. So you'd like to go with giving them an emotion first. I'd love you to play this more jealous than frustrated, and then that will dictate a certain how of the way the line is read. But if your 10-year-old doesn't know what, I want to feel a little bit more angst from you. Well, I don't know what that means. And then you say, well, and meanwhile we're rolling because I'm in the scene with them. Then you start to kind of say, well, like, what if it sounded kind of like this? You want me to say it like that? Yeah, say it like that. So I don't want to take anything away from his performance because I only did that a couple of times. But I did call on a lot of my memories of working when I was 10, and it was on Little House on the Prairie, and Michael Landon directed a lot of those episodes, and he was acting in those scenes with me as well. And so I was amazed at how much I could recall, that he built a really warm, playful environment for me and all the rest of the kids that were on that show. And I loved doing that for Rohan. I mean, he loved being on the set anyway, but just knowing when to be his friend, when to be his director, when to be his co-actor, when to be, when to kind of make him feel safe, in a paternal way. It was just such a great little kid, and that was helpful. I had that experience.
By the way, as an adult actor, I often will ask a director if I'm not understanding. I will say, "Do you mind giving me a line reading?" I do not mind it.
Yeah, because we're always going to use we're going to do our version.
We're going to filter it through us, but sometimes it's the quickest way to go. I say, I said it so much to Mitch. Give me the line reading, and then you understand it more. It's a real nice shortcut. And there used to be a huge shibboleth about it. Oh, you never talk that to the. I love it.
Yeah, I never mind it. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're talking a lot about balance, about that individual performance and vision and understanding versus that of whoever's informing you or your audience, truly at the end state. I'm a programmer at a regional festival, and that's sort of a struggle that I understand is performing programming for myself and kind of the right couple dozen people versus this larger thing that informs and makes something possible. What have you found to be useful tools for both of you as individual performers, writers, and especially on this cusp into the world of directing? How do you learn to listen to both parts of your brain, where you're doing this thing for yourself and those right couple dozen people balanced by what you know needs to be done for that larger picture of the audience?
I mean, what we do is it's not for an audience of one. I mean, I know I'm going to be watching it, so I want it to hold up to my personal scrutiny. That's just personal quality control. But I do know that I'm in a mass appeal business. So I think it's irresponsible to be arrogant enough to say, well, screw if everybody likes it or not. I think if you're truly talented, you're able to do something that has mass appeal, but be intelligent and sophisticated enough to know what elements you can Trojan horse in some stuff for the quirkiest of your own personal taste or your friends. I think that it can all coexist. And certainly when you're programming a festival slate, I would imagine it's the same thing. You're dealing with multiple components, and you start somewhere and you go down and then you go there. I mean, I just trust your own ear, your own eye, I guess.
Yeah. Can Mr. Tambor, could I hear your?
No.
No. Okay. Back to my seat.
Yes, you can. Okay. I think you're asking about also.
How to trust. Yeah.
What he's saying is that, see, this film actually, with all its vagaries and all the things, it connects. It actually is about, there's a father-son relationship in here, there's about family in here, there's about that word that is just, it actually delivers a big laugh, but when I saw it, I was very touched by it, loneliness. And that's a big theme in this movie, and is very moving in this movie. And that last scene with with Philip Baker Hall, who's a genius, is remarkable film. And so it's a combination of both gods, Apollo and Dionysus, and you know what I'm saying, and you hold those reins, and that's the beauty. What?
I thought Apollo was.
It's not Apollo.
Apollo.
It's Apollo.
Apollo
God, what
shirt.
am I going to do with
He's
him?
putting on a polo shirt.
And this is what. By the way,
helper.
I'm gonna throw him under the bus right now. This is what he plays. He plays like he's not intelligent, and he doesn't read. He reads and he's intelligent.
Thank you.
So Jeffrey, you asked what the rest of us are here for if we're not directors, writers, producers, all that. Well, I'm here as an audience to enjoy your fine films. And I loved Bad Words last night.
Oh, great.
And I love your sense of humor.
Thank you.
So what is your next movie going to be about that you're directing, and when can we expect it?
I don't know when you can expect it. That's up to people richer and more powerful than I, because they'll be buying it, I guess, and distributing it. But we are going to shoot it in, start prep in May, start shooting in July, be done by the end of the year. So, you know, middle of next year, maybe? I don't know. It is called, it's taken from a book called The Family Fang, which is about a couple of parents that are famous performance artists. A couple of parents, a mother and a father that are performance artists. And the brother and the sister, the daughter and the son, played by, I play the brother and Nicole Kidman plays the sister, the daughter. We return home to look for these performance artist parents of ours that have gone missing. And we don't know whether they've been murdered, because there's been a slew of murders in the area, or whether they've just disappeared as part of their latest, greatest performance art piece. And so it's got a lot of the same tricky tone of drama and comedy and vulnerability and mystery, and it's odd and it's small and it should be pretty interesting. It's another one that demands kind of building that odd-looking world, and it should be pretty great. David Lindsay Hebert, who was a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, adapted it from this book. And it's just, you know, it's no bad words. Let's be clear. It's going to be dog shit compared to bad words. Because Andrew didn't write it. But this David Lindsay Hebert guy, he can put a pen to paper. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first of all, these last 24 hours have seriously been the greatest experience of my life, so thank you for being here. And for those of us that are trying to get more into the business side, finance, marketing, do you have any advice for getting on this team that you're expanding?
For the team that I'm expanding, I would point you towards the focus people.
Where are they?
They're over here in the corner. Marketing is something that is an incredible field. Really, really challenging. I really admire the work that people in marketing do, because they're trying to figure out what we all want and how to position it. It's pretty cool.
But you're onto something that's very big, and a lot of people are in your position here. And I will tell you, one of the things that I teach is, you see what I'm doing? Pulling. Start grabbing and pulling. And don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to bother people, because that's how you get ahead. And if they give you any heat, just say, you were once like this, and you did the same as I am doing. Don't be afraid to bother people.
Being passionate about something is hugely attractive to people who are privileged enough to be in the position to hire someone. It gives them a lot of actual comfort and peace to know that if I give this person that job, I don't have to worry about that job, because they really want to do it. I mean, there's a fine line between being, you know, too cloying and desperate, but you get a sense of what that line is in 6th grade, you know. I mean, just take it right up to there, and it's...
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you for doing this, because I totally had your Tiger Beat poster up in my wall when I was a kid, and I was a huge fan. I really was. Well, and I followed you throughout the whole career. But I too wear a, you know, I like to call it kind of the trifecta of hats. It's kind of like the drinking hat, you know, where you're producer, an actor, and you know, just a screenwriter as well. And my question for you, we just created the first Mexican-American superhero, a team that I'm with, and we're looking into, his name's Elway. It's a really great product, but we're looking towards distribution, and we've been venturing off into that. And so I wanted to get yours and Jeffrey's actually advice on when you're doing a project, what do you do in terms of distribution, or what happens next, or even in the beginning, distribution, starting your film? What's the best advice you can give?
Were you linked up to Focus when you started? Were you linked up to any?
No. Focus was kind enough to want to hang out with us after Toronto. We went to Toronto looking for a distributor, and could not have been happier that they wanted to do the film.
So you just make, you make and you're independently financed.
This film, yes, by Darko.
Are you financed for the next film?
We are, yes, and we'll be looking for a distributor on that one as well. So distribution,
I know it's a hard question.
I'm not bright enough to answer that, sir, but I will say that just for me as a consumer, I am always attracted to buy something or watch something or buy a ticket for something if it's with interesting people, and there's something great about getting a sense that you're in good hands with the filmmakers or the content providers or whatever product it is that you have, based on what they surround their product with. And if that surrounding is something that doesn't look like they're overly pandering to either box office or selling it in stores or whatever it is, then it's attractive, and that will get traction because then it'll succeed on its merits. But that first sample, I think, should come from a specificity.
And there's nothing as popular as word of mouth.
Yeah.
And you're living in 2014 where we have the internet, and it's very, very powerful, and everybody wants a piece of what everybody else is talking about. So, and you can do that literally without money.
Yeah, it's a free pipe.
I love that. That's the best answer ever. Thank you so much.
I'm not quite sure it's true, but it sounds really...
It's
no,
brilliant.
It's true.
It's
It's
brilliant.
true.
It sounds very current.
It sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm part of the audience that's not aspiring in the film industry. I'm with digital advertising and marketing. So I was just curious if you're still doing anything with Dum Dum, the branded content.
His name's Jeffrey.
No.
It's an easy one. I've been using it for years. There's a company that Will Arnett, another fellow you know, Will Arnett and I had was a digital marketing company. The answer is, fortunately, Will and I got too busy with our day jobs to really keep hands-on day-to-day on that, and it's resting right now.
He called me the first day he was at the office. He went, I'm in an office. He loved being in an office, like a kid.
Yeah.
He's like, I have an office, I have a desk.
Yeah, had one of those little headsets.
Yeah, a little like doing pencils. Yeah, I loved it.
Counting paper clips, as
Yep.
my wife liked to say.
Yes.
Hi, Jason and Jeffrey.
Hi.
Yeah, hello. I couldn't seem to work up the courage to ask it at the screening yesterday, but as far as...
you drank into it today, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Yeah. As far as spelling bees go, and Jeffrey touched on this earlier, how would Jason Bateman fare in a spelling competition?
Not great. We've had that experiment back in 4th grade, and I dropped the W in answer.
Yeah, and one more question. And
I dropped the N. I did 2 N's on banana.
And one more.
The laughing hurts.
One more question. What were some directors that were your mentors or influences on you going into your first project?
Stole it. I am a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson and Spike Jonze and David O. Russell and Alexander Payne and the Coen brothers. These guys create very specific, fairly raw worlds that are kind of, they're 360-degree environments for the audience, as opposed to just sitting in your chair eating popcorn and watching a fun screen. You actually go in when you're in those movies, and that's what I aspire to.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm afraid this is going to be I'm sorry guys, this is going to be the last question because Jason has to get back to LA and I'm doing some hair extensions. So,
All right.
Last question.
I made it. So this is a question for you two and for your writer as well. So in your industry, how do you deal with creative compromise? How often do you run into that, and how do you deal with that? Does it ever get soul crushing?
There's usually a way to serve both agendas. There's really not a wrong way or a right way to do anything in the, pardon the term, arts, whether it's film or painting or anything. I mean, it's just because there's no rules. So you can take someone's note and you can usually appease it. You can satisfy them and you if you just work a little bit harder and you come to work with a surplus of compromise and patience. It's part of your job, I think, because it's a team sport. Yes, Andrew?
Yeah, what you said. Thank you.
What he said. Jason.
Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Congratulations. I'm going to talk.
For me.
Congratulations. It's a magnificent film. Thank you for coming. And thank you for your film, your work, and your words of wisdom.
Thank you.